Alright guys, major character changes for Wuthering Wave. We just got brand new info around the latest changes for the upcoming 3.5 characters, and honestly, there are quite a few big adjustments. Both YANGYANG and SUISUI received major kit changes, with some abilities getting buffed, some stuff got nerfed, and even ELECTRO ROVER also received several important improvements as well. So in today's video, we're going to go over pretty much every major change that just happened this week, what it could mean for the overall value, their teams, whether these changes actually make them stronger heading into the Mangzo update. We'll also take a look at some DPS calculations by the end. And real quick, if you guys want to stay updated on everything on Wuthering Waves, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on those notifications, because we're getting very close to version 3.5 and there's going to be a ton of new information dropping right before the update starts. And remember, as part of hitting 41k subscribers, I'm still continuing the LUNITE sub giveaway, and all you need to do is be a subscriber, that like, and leave a comment down below. The rules will be in the description as well for those who want to check it out. But with that, let's not waste any time and get right into it. First, let's quickly take a look at the updated combat tags for each character. We have the tags for YANGYANG. She's now mainly a main damage dealer, heavy attack damage, Havoc Bane, and traction. The biggest addition here is traction, which wasn't there before, which means she's going to have crowd control into her kit with even more grouping utility. We have SUISUI with damage amplification, support and healer, and Glacio Chafe. And lastly, ELECTRO ROVER, Concerto efficiency, risen skill damage, and Electro Flare. Again, Rover is expected to function as both a main DPS and sub DPS hybrid while providing strong utility for future teams, especially Electro teams, and for that in mind we have HN expect to be a Electro character in the future. But now let's move on into the actual kit changes. So first let's start with YANGYANG, starting with her Forte circuit. These are the biggest changes for the character. We finally got clarification that Azure is her default stance. Next up, both of her major crit damage buffs receive some increases as well. The Baited Breath now increases heavy attack Azure stored stance crit damage, went from 125% all the way up to 160%. We have the Driving Mist that also received the exact same increase from 125 up to 160% crit damage. So both of her major burst windows are now considerably stronger than before. The next change here is the Feathered Oath duration was increased from 1 second to 4 seconds, making the buff much easier to maintain. And each individual stack now grants 25% crit damage instead of 30%. That also lowers the maximum bonus from that buff from 180 down to 150%. So basically, when a Resonator in team applies Havoc Bane, the buff is much easier to maintain, but it has a slight damage nerf. So this is both a nerf and a quality of life buff. The buff is much easier, and also a nice addition is that using her Resin Celebration now restores 1 Azure Plume, making her rotations much smoother. Now if we move on to the Resin Chain, we have the R1, they're also getting reworked. Instead of a one-time total damage immunity, she now gains disruption resistance across more of her attacks, making this even more useful. And personally, I think this makes her much more consistent during combat. We have the R2, received a massive buff, heavy attack Azure Sword Stance, and all the other following attacks here all increase from 50% damage bonus to a massive 100%. So huge increase with the R2. And lastly, the third Resin Chain also got a pretty big buff. The Shadow of XUANLING damage jumps from 50% up to 337%. Probably the biggest buff, but however, this is the third R chain, so that'll be quite expensive to go for. Her Resin Celebration also received a increased damage multiplier. And lastly, one of her inherent skills changed from giving 16% crit damage to instead providing 8% crit rate, making it a lot easier to gain high crit rate on YANGYANG. And overall, I'd say definitely received more buffs than nerfs this round. Her maximum crit damage ceiling did came down slightly, but she became much smoother for rotation and a lot of quality of life changes, and some of the other stuff got buffed as well in damage. So overall, she's going to be looking really good if that's how she plays out on launch. Now let's move on to SUISUI. She also received a surprisingly large number of changes, starting with the intro skill. It now pulls nearby enemies together. Her Resin skill, Awakening Springs, also gain enemy grouping, and this also pretty much gives her more utility right off the bat. Next up, the Resin Celebration, now dealing damage to enemies affected by the correct negative status, also increases the maximum stack count. The Havoc Bane interaction also became much stronger. Previously, the Defense Ignore and Havoc Res Ignore lasted 15 seconds, but now the duration is doubled, up to 30 seconds, and that's actually a very noticeable buff for Havoc teams, more specifically a buff for Yangyang, as the Havoc Bane support for Yangyang is definitely going to be Suisui in the second phase of 3.5. Now her Forte circuit also changed quite a bit. The floral maximum increased from 120 all the way to 600 points. Entering Cleansing Rain now resets the floral completely. The third stage of the basic deck can also now group enemies together, even more crowd control utility. We also have the first inherent skill that also received some important adjustment. The Spring Birth Healing scaling increased a lot. The Resin skill and intro skill create bonus also increased from 50 to 80%. This is good as you can just focus this character with more crit damage and energy regen to hit the energy regen requirements. The Resin chain also changed by a lot. The R2 a complete rework. Instead of a previous effect, Resonators now gain 50% crit damage for 30 seconds after applying or damaging enemies affected by Frazzle, Burst, any of the negative statuses. They could become extremely valuable across multiple teams that use negative statuses if you have the R2. They have her outro skill now additionally applies Chafe while healing teammates. Both of her Resin skill stances also receive now resource generation effects depending on whether she is the active Resonator. Her Liberation duration increased from 25 to 30 seconds as well, and the Concerto Energy Restoration received a slight nerf from 20 to 18. The R1 lost the duration increased because that effect now has been moved directly into her base kit. Overall, I'd say Suisui definitely came out ahead as well. She gained more utility, more grouping, longer buff uptime, better Havoc Bane support, and stronger overall buffs consistency, so that's going to be looking really good. Finally, let's talk about ELECTRO ROVER. Now, ELECTRO ROVER did receive some few changes. The block stance now grants interruption immunity. The all sounds attack now automatically trigger Thunder Bane while reducing the cooldown of Overshock. Several total damage multipliers were increased. The Forte circuit now also activates Rover Arrow Healing. And finally, after holding Resin skill Overshock, the Resin skill damage bonus now lasts 20 seconds instead of only 6. This is a massive quality of life improvement and should make rotations feel much better. Now, looking at some early DPS calculations, Yangyang still appears to be one of the strongest upcoming main DPS characters despite having lower damage. The main teams right now you could do with these characters is of course going to be Yangyang with Suisui and Chiso. That is going to be one of the main teams you can end up doing. However, you can also do Hyuki, Lucilla, and Suisui, and the damage with the Yangyang team is going to be pretty much the same. So it seems that Hyuki and Yangyang are pretty much on the same level when it comes to damage, and Suisui also continues to look like one of the highest value support characters thanks to her healing, amplification, grouping, and Havoc Bane synergy with the negative status Glacio Chafe as well. And ELECTRO ROVER keeps looking stronger every single beta update, especially for future teams alongside Ichin and the new Mengzo characters. Of course, these are still early beta changes, so everything we discussed today can still change before version 3.5 officially launches, but these should be one of the last big changes that we get before the official launch and release of these characters. If these adjustments stay close to release, overall, these three characters are going to look incredibly good. Let me know down below which of these characters are you going to go for and whether you're planning to summon for Yangyang Suisui or maybe even both, or perhaps save up for the future lineup of the Mengzo characters. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the notifications because we're getting extremely close to version 4.5 and I'll continue covering every single update right here on the channel. But for now, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.